office, Centers for Spiritual Living, have decided to do something different. And they've invited all of the centers to participate, and I have opted to do that. What they have done is they have declared a theme for the year, and then they have suggested top topics for that year. And they're calling the theme for this year, a world that works for all. And I wasn't too crazy about that, so I, along with some other people, have changed that theme for us to making the world a better place. So for this year, in some way, we'll be touching on those topics of making the world a better place. We have a tendency, I think, so often to become isolationist and to forget that we are critical parts of the world, and what we think affects the world. So with that in mind, the talks this year are going to be loosely associated with making the world a better place. The Science of Mind philosophy states that the universe is abundant, and there's no lack and nothing is missing. There's plenty of everything necessary to feed, water, educate, nurture, and care for everyone and everything. Our problem, if we want to label it as that, our problem is not scarcity, but it is our limited consciousness. So for this next year, it is my intention, as well as the Centers for Spiritual Living's intention, to expand our consciousness, to be the light that creates a change in the world to make the world a better place. And Ernest Holmes, in his Declaration of Principles, said this: "We believe the ultimate goal of life is the complete emancipation from all discord of every nature, and that it is sure to be attained by all." Complete emancipation of discord. And the only way we can have complete emancipation of discord is to be in harmony and alignment with ourselves. It must start with us, each one of us. After a talk, the Dalai Lama, someone asked him from the audience, why didn't you fight back against the Chinese? And he replied this. The Dalai Lama looked down, swung his feet just a bit, and then looked back up at us and said with a gentle smile, "Well, war is obsolete, you know." Then, after a few minutes, his face grave, he said, "Of course, the mind can rationalize fighting back. The mind can rationalize fighting back. But the heart would never understand. Then you would be divided in yourself. The heart and the mind, and the war would be inside you." So for this coming year, striving for, creating harmony within each one of us. I'm sure that you all are familiar with the 100 monkey effect and the Maharishi effect. And then just briefly to clarify that for those of you perhaps that don't know, they did studies about monkeys, and they discovered that monkeys on one little isolated island had learned how to wash their food in the river by using a tool. And when enough of the monkeys on this one island learned that technology suddenly spread across the world. That monkeys had that technology. And it wasn't because monkeys taught other monkeys, it was in the consciousness. And the Maharishi effect happened in Washington, D.C., and many, many followers of the Maharishi had come together to sit in meditation and to hold peace and pray. Their intention was to reduce the number of violent crimes in Washington, D.C. And the police department and the police commissioner, and they all scoffed. And they said, this is just stupid. How could you think that sitting in meditation would lower the violent crime episodes in Washington, D.C.? This is a violent city. But they sat in meditation, holding peace. And oddly enough, the violent crime rate in Washington, D.C., as a result of that, was reduced dramatically. All things, everything, starts in consciousness. And peace and harmony start in consciousness. And I can't say, well, those guys over there need to get their peace and harmony and alignment. I have no control over what anybody else thinks or says or does. All I have control over is myself. Peace and harmony begins with me. War of any kind is obsolete. We can have war against hunger, we can have war against the environmental pollutants. Change has to start with me. And when the change comes in consciousness, then change will always follow. It cannot be otherwise. Ernest Holmes said in The Philosophy of Ernest Holmes by he and George Bindle, we're giving birth to the next great spiritual impulse of the world. And for the first time in history, it is free from dogma, fear, superstition, materialism, and all that is built on ignorance and the denial of God. The universe in which we live is a spiritual system now. We live in a spiritual system. It is our job, people who come together, religious scientists, and all of the other massive spiritual communities, it is our job to know that the universal is a spiritual system now, right now. Many of you know that I went to the Parliament of World Religion, and just a couple of days ago I got an email from the Imam, who was the president of the board of directors of the Parliament of World Religion, talking about how powerful and how many changes the Parliament had made. And to my dismay, he also said that he had been subject to prejudice And one corporation had agreed to make a huge financial donation to the parliament if he, a Muslim, would resign. What? Really? He didn't. And the changes of the Parliament of World Religion have been astonishing. It just defies reasonability, I think, to think that someone would be willing to make a donation to an interfaith organization dedicated to peace while expecting someone to resign that didn't align with their belief system. It's laughable, isn't it? The fact that we think it's laughable and obscene and ridiculous is part of moving into the consciousness of peace and harmony and integrity with all faiths. So when the world comes to the consciousness of understanding that war is obsolete, no matter what kind of war we're calling it or what kind of conflict we have, it's obsolete. And consciousness begins with me. And when I am in conflict with my beliefs, that has a ripple effect. Just like the 100-Monday effect and just like the Maharishi effect. When I'm in personal conflict, I'm setting up that vibration of conflict. It cannot be otherwise. Ernest Holmes continued, the transformation takes place here. You don't have to wonder if it will take place out there. The world will come along when enough of us see through the night into the celestial light that shineth more and more unto the perfect day. So let me read that first part of that statement again. It's so rich and it's so true that transformation takes place here. You don't have to wonder if it will take place out there. The world will come along when enough of us see through the night into the celestial light. We're a little cell of light. As Kathy said, a little honeycomb of spirituality. And we touch people. And those people touch people. And those people touch people. And it's the multiplier. We touch people when we are standing in our truth, when we're standing in our harmony, and we're standing in our light. We're it. It's us. And we can't fob off the conflicts on someone else. It must begin with us. And we sing about let there be peace and let it begin with me. There is peace. And it has begun. And as we walk through our days, allowing that to be, being at peace, no matter what's going on, no matter who's cut you off in traffic, No matter what somebody said to you, harmony starts with you. Peace starts with you. And not allowing others to knock you off balance. I often think of the little bozo dolls. I don't know if you all know what, yeah. You know, they've got those feet. I used to get them when I got my shoes. When I got my Buster Brown shoes, I would get a bozo doll. And you would hit it and hit it and hit it, and it would bounce right back on its feet. That's the practice that we need to have. We need to have that kind of resilience, that nothing phases us, just bouncing back. Sure, okay, maybe you have like a flash, and then just allowing yourself to bounce right back, to come back into alignment with harmony and peace within yourself, to not allow yourself to be knocked off balance. So, as Dr. Holmes writes above, we believe the ultimate goal of life is the complete emancipation from all discord of every nature, and that it is sure to be attained by all. In other words, a world that works for everyone. We don't need to know how. We don't need to plan it all out, figure it all out for ourselves. We don't need to know how it's going to be done, accomplished. All we need to do is live from our center light, to be one in consciousness with the divine, to be at peace. And the rest of it will take care of itself. We don't have to know how it is done. We only know that it will be done. It'll occur. There's a difference between a goal and a vision. So that's why we don't have goal setting in this faith too much. We set intentions. And there's a vast difference. When we set a goal, we have a pre-known pathway to obtaining it, with a vision of how we're going to do it. And we have an unknown that demands we maintain a steadfast belief in the outcome and the process. Everything that we need to do step by step to obtain the goal. But when we have an intention, and many of you came on New Year's Eve, and I appreciate that, thank you so much. When you have an intention, you don't have to figure it out, the how of it. You only need the commitment of it. And there's so much power in that commitment of an intention. I used to have a friend who really had the whole financial thing down pat, and I was not there yet. I was struggling with abundance issues. And so I said to her one day, I said, I don't know how you do it. How do you do it? And she said, it's just a matter of making up your mind. It's like deciding you're going to have fried chicken for dinner. You know how easy it is to decide to have fried chicken. You got a lot of options. You can make it yourself, or you can go to Colonel Sanders. It's easy, and nothing's going to stand in your way. When you decide you're going to have fried chicken, that's it. It's a done deal. And that's the same way with abundance, and that's the same way with peace. when you set your intention, when you decide on harmony in your life, when you decide that your consciousness is going to be in alignment, that your mind and your heart are going to be in alignment with peace, that there is nothing that's going to stand in your way. It's as easy as fried chicken for dinner. Setting an intention and allowing the universe to unfold that for you. You don't have to make peace throughout the world. That's not your job. Your job is to be the peace, to live from that place. It's as easy as fried chicken for dinner. When we place before us a vision of that which harms no one and serves all, and we stand steadfast in maintaining that vision as something that must become a reality, when we secure it with a faith as strong as the faith we have in the sun, which must arise in the morning, then everything required to bring it into our experience is attracted to us, and everything unlike it is dissipated. We have a tendency to make our lives way too complicated. Way too complicated. Having the same faith in our internal peace as we have in the faith that the sun is going to come up in the morning. Now, some days we can't see it, but we know it's there. And some days we are knocked off balance by the media and the fear mongers and the oh ain't it awful and the yes butters, the haters as the kids call them. We can get knocked off base. But the sun always comes up, and the peace always shows up. We can trust that because we live in a spiritual world now. We don't have to do it all. We only have to do all we can do, a little bit of our space in the world, our little place, our little cell in the honeycomb of life. So, as I said, everything unlike harmony is dissipated. And this is true from the micro of our own health, wealth, creative expression, and loving relationships. So it's time for us to acknowledge that we can make a difference, and we can individually believe in harmony, and that the world works for everyone, and that we are making the world a better place by our presence. We are making the world a better place. I know each one of you. I know you. I know you are loving, caring, peaceful people. And that quality that you express is touching lives and changing the world. It can't be otherwise. Our task is not to try to convince others to want it. Our job is to convince ourselves, and in so doing, model the spiritual prototype, the mental equivalent. We each have a part to play in changing the collective consciousness of the world. It's as easy as one chicken for dinner. We just need to be ourselves and trust the process and be tenacious in our spiritual practice, in our behavior. So, over time, as you may or may not get snagged and snared by whatever the media is having to say to you about how awful the whole world is, and everything is crashing and life is awful and living in fear and all of that. Interrupt that thought for yourself simply by saying, I trust the universe. I trust the universe. I trust the universe. And I trust each one of you, as I know that you are peaceful, peace-loving people. Not only do I trust you, I love you beyond measure. Namaste.
Namaste.
So I would invite the practitioners to stand and join with me as we hold the consciousness of this community in prayer. I just allow myself to move into that sanctuary within the place where I commune with the divine. I allow my heart to settle in and to be at peace. I know I have nothing to fear. I have nothing to regret. I have nothing to change. I know that each one of us are divine creations of the universal one. And that one is utterly loving and peaceful and harmonious. And because I am an expression of that, I know my basic nature. And your basic nature is loving and peaceful. It cannot be otherwise. And so in all area of life, I call forth that harmony for each one of us. I call forth harmony and balance in all relationships, all financial matters, all health issues, all I know that we are the celebration of the divine. And that one rejoices in each one of us, expresses through each one of us, calls each one of us into peace and harmony and happiness. It cannot be otherwise. So, trusting and knowing that universal part where what I think, what I speak, what I see, what I celebrate must be manifest. I'm so grateful for it. And I declare it a done deal. It cannot be otherwise. I invite you to join with me as we say it together, and so it is, and amen.